Okay. Now we're recording. And to mute participants is... Okay. So that will lead us into some quiet space. Okay. So... People have texted me, telling me if they're out of town. Okay. So in a nutshell, what we're doing is these eclipses that happened at the end of November and beginning of April, March 25th to April the 8th, really cleared us out of any old excessive energies, or they initiated places where we needed to create deep change in our lives. And those processes are going to be happening for the next up to 6 months and may not really culminate until the next set of eclipses, which is going to be in October. Those eclipses, incidentally, just happened to hit right before the election cycle of the United States, which I think is going to be, you can't make this stuff up. And it's also on the Pluto return of the United States. We're still going through the Pluto return. It's a long-term transit. But the long and the short of it is there's a lot of revolution happening for all of us, internally but also externally. And so as we go through these energies, it's initiating our own revolution. And we're also creating the revolution inside of us. And it's asking us what wants to be created, what wants to be birthed. And Jude used to always take us into that. What do you want to birth? What do you want to create? And that's always a challenging thing to really, get a reality check for ourselves. I mean, what do we want to create? And I remember when she would ask me over the years, or asked all of us during all the workshops, I would just feel dumbfounded. I was like, I don't know how to answer that question. How do you say that I really want to create this from the depth of my heart? We create relationships. We create cars, houses, kids. We create all sorts of things for ourselves. While at the same time, there's something so much deeper that we're being invited to create. And what that really is stepping into our highest aspect of presence, our highest aspect of self. And it's like, how do we participate in the creation of the new earth? And I think we really do that by changing ourselves. It's always an internal job, and that's what the eclipses really took us into, was to go in and activate those things. Then, of course, I think I mentioned in the last one, we had the Jupiter Uranus Conjunction. That is still ongoing. It was exact on April the 20th, but we're going to be feeling this for quite a while. Jupiter's moving faster than Uranus, so it blew it up during that time period before and after. But it still is taking us into shocking revelations. So it's happening in the outer world, through politics, through just anything. Shocking things are happening all the time. I don't really watch the news anymore, but if you're one that does watch the news, there's all sorts of things that are just coming out. I do see things on Facebook that people share. So I know it's happening. It's blowing up. But basically, it's going in, it's excavating anything that doesn't serve us anymore. And so as we're taken more internally to ourselves, into our heart center, but also into our dantian, down into the core, down into your emotional body. If there's any emotions you're sitting there and holding on to that you don't need anymore, that's what this energy is doing. It's taking us in to clean that out. It really is. I think I may have said it in the last time, but it's almost like if you could drink an acid wash and wash out the whole entirety of your body with an acid wash, what would that look like? It really is something to take us and clean us out so crystal clean and clear that we're creating from a place where we're no longer in lack consciousness, where we don't feel like we're separate from the all that is, from God, whatever you perceive that to be. I mean, it's oneness just is. So we're also invited to give up those definitions if we're ever stuck in a place of, the religious dogma, whatever we were taught in school and growing up through family and friends and stuff. We really are invited to give all of those things up. And as far as definitions, we're really going into a core definition of who we are, just as I am presence with God. And it happens with every relationship we're in. It can be with family, friends, whatever. But it's like any polarity is coming up to be cleared if we've not done it. That's what the next, I think, actually 2 years are about, until we get to the beginning of 2026 when Neptune enters Aries and Saturn enters Aries. So it's the work we came here to do, Saturn, with the new dream, Neptune, in Aries, where we can really initiate. That's when I think the real beginning of the building starts. Right now, we're still in those Bardo states where we're still facing the lower parts of self. But depending on where you're on soul progression, you really are, and I think if we're listening to this call, we're paying attention to ourselves, or at least we're trying to do the internal work so that we can be led by Spirit in every single moment. So there's no longer an agenda. There's not a past. What we do, things will come up and your mind will go there and think about the past. But every time something like that happens, we're really led to let go of that, whatever that was. I'm about to go through a purging of this house like I don't think I've ever done before. All the stuff that my mom kept, from my sister and her mother that died 70 years ago. There's still clothes in there from my grandmother that died in 1952. It's like, and I'm probably going to inherit, from her mother, her youngest sister that's been my grandmother, kind of like a surrogate grandmother. She's on the runway ready to go too, and I'm going to inherit all that. Talking about stuff going back to 1850, bedroom suits, and it's like, oh my God. So it's like all this heavy energy that we're having to make decisions with and excavate, and some of it is not even this lifetime. We're dealing with past lifetime things that come up. There's situations where, I know people are going through this where someone has popped in their life during these eclipses and they're like, I didn't ask for this person. They're like, oh, it's this and this, and they're having all these challenging situations and circumstances. And I'm like, well, if they're there, they came there for a reason. Your soul brought them in. And what's happening is there's a lot of twin flame activations. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last call or not. I'm getting like Jude. I can't even hold it in my mind what I've talked about before, but it's still pertinent to this point, and it's pertinent for this reason. As we're going into new creations, we have to make sure that we don't have any left karmic residue. And God will use any person, place, thing on this planet to wake us up and take us deeper into our hearts. It doesn't have to be a difficult thing every time this happens. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll just softly just come in just to make us go through a life review. Sometimes the energy will feel intense, and you'll feel like you're supposed to move towards something or do something with someone, and yet that's really not the purpose at all. And you may say, well, I'm confused. And I can say I'm going through this right now for the last, several weeks. There's been an individual cross my path, and I'm like, what's this about? And there's been a bigger dynamic happening in that individual's life that I think I'm supposed to assist them in healing with the family dynamic. And so I've come full circle from where I was 19 years ago, because 19 years ago, I'm the one that was being cracked open. Late. I was a late bloomer, so I was being cracked open. But now I'm taking all of this that I've used and learned with Jude and all the reading and all the spiritual people and everything, and I'm going to actuate that in my healing and using my essence to be there for another as God guides me to do. And so for my lesson, and perhaps this is true for some of you, it's like we're supposed to just stay in the moment. Don't project into the future how you think anything is going to work out. It'll be interesting to see if any of you have these kinds of things happening for you. Shoot me an email. Let me know if you've got situations like this. But a lot of people, especially when I'm reading, they're having this happen. And again, it's only about taking us deeper into our hearts. And if we can embrace that and know that God is going to lead us to the next place, that's the journey. Now, I say all of that to lead into this. This last Scorpio moon took us really into the depth of all of the rawness of who we are. And it made us, it's almost like if God could put your nose in whatever you've done. It's kind of like one more of those, and you're like, oh, God, not again. But we're supposed to look. Just go look. Look in the deepest, darkest corners of your own life, your own existence, all your relationships, and see if anything there needs clearing and cleaning. And here's why it's being done this way. This new moon in Taurus is seeding our future. I mean, I think I saved 30 or 40 different astrological interpretations of this. And I'm going to put them all together to send them out to everybody. But have patience as you read through them. I've read them all, and they're all. It's so funny. A lot of them say the same thing, and yet each one has a certain depth of a knowing that no one else could have known. And, of course, that's where that person's particular gift is when they articulate the way they perceive this new moon and where it's taking us and leading us into. And so all of them have absolute purpose. And so, depending on your time, it does take some time to read through it all, but I'm just going to one email so you don't have to go through a bunch of stuff. But the point is the more succinctly that you have dived into your own being, the core of who you are, and you've allowed the highest potentiality to emerge of what you think you want to create, where it's coming from your deepest heart, not your mind. So, and this is what we're being trained to do. I mean, Jude has worked with all of us all these years to come to this point right now. I mean, this is the actuating point of creating the new. And that's what all the astrologers talk about. So as we're seeding it, have it in your mind, do new moon rituals, however this can work for you. And some people say that you want to be more clear and write out what it is exactly that you want. I do think that's important to an extent. The other thing that you don't want to do is to be so specific that you cheat yourself out of something that's much greater that God may bring you if you hadn't limited yourself on the creation. And that's really always true for everything we've been doing in life. We live through limitation. And we limit ourselves because our minds take over and say, oh, well, don't you want this over here? This is pretty and shiny. And you go in your heart and you're like, oh, well, I've got that now. Why did I want that? It really wasn't that important. And that's one thing I'm doing here just in the physical stuff. What stuff do I need anymore? And there's such a weight with the physicality, but there's also a weight with the emotional all the emotional baggage we carry. So we're clearing out, well, and also the mental. So we're clearing out the mental, any thoughts that are no longer useful to us. All the baggage that you carry from everything your family has ever said that's important, ancestrally to you. You're invited to release all that because it's all mental. It's usually somebody else's mental projected onto us. Then we're invited to go into the emotional body and really, on a core level, release any emotions that someone else projected onto us. Whoop, don't need that anymore. And if you look back over the last few weeks, any place you got triggered, because that's what it was about, triggering emotions. I've talked with different family and friends here, and they're dealing with death of this or transmuting this or a change of life or job, and we're just talking. Again, I'm not deep, going in and doing sessions with people, but just being a friend with different family and friends. So we're invited to let go anything we're holding emotionally that doesn't suit us anymore. Spiritually, if we are in any place where we are in denial or forgetfulness of who we are as an aspect of God, we're being asked to release any of that. So when you've got your spiritual, emotional, and mental bodies all cleared, and they're more aligned with your etheric body, it has to follow form through function. Jude always says form follows function. So when you de-densify all of the other stuff, you de-densify the body because the physical body is what carries everything. So imagine what that feels like. Go into that. Start really feeling into that as you're also co-creating your vision of what you want your life to look like with this new moon, because these are powerful seeds. And a lot of times we really don't, I think, look deeply at how powerful we are as creators. Every second of the day we have thoughts running through our minds. Most of the thoughts are not important. It's trash. But if you've got things that you come in and say, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do this, and if you're confused about what it is you're wanting to do, then you're not coming from the deepest clarity of your heart. Because you shouldn't be confused or conflicted over your creations. Don't judge yourself for it, but allow yourself to observe it and say, oh, that's what I need to work on. Let me get rid of that. And sometimes that's easier said than done. So that's part of what this meditation will be for tonight, though, is really resetting. Again, every meditation is doing this. It's taking us into the core. It's going into the cellular structure, of course, I'll go through it in the meditations, but if you've been through this, you already know. Where we really go into pristine awareness in setting these new seeds. So as we do that, it sets us up for the next moon cycle, which is going to be a Sagittarius full moon. That full moon in 2 weeks has the potential to bring in and really start grounding what we're doing, because it goes right after Taurus. So we're in Taurus season now. Taurus ends 21st, 22nd. I forget when Taurus changes to Gemini. But this moon, the next moon on the 23rd, is going to be at the beginning of Gemini, which is partnering. We're grounding this. Taurus is Earth. So we are putting these new seeds in the earth right now. It can be in your mind, but it's deeply in your heart. What do you want to create? And so nurture them, water them. Just send them the greatest amount of love that you can. And part of it's a mental exercise. Part of it is really getting clear on merging with our higher self, our cosmic awareness. So as we start creating that seed, that whatever it is that you want to create. Some of you will be creating big things. I mean, you may have a big idea for work, or it may be something for your family. It may be maybe you want a new house. It could just be inner peace. It could be totally an inside job. You may be creating something where you just want to let go of emotional trauma. I mean, it can be as simple as that, and I don't mean to trivialize that, because that's actually one of the largest creations that we can create, is literally creating space to dump all the rest of the emotional baggage we carry. I think that's actually greater than creating anything else out in the world of form. Because when you change you, you're changing everything else out around you. So don't trivialize anything that you have that you're working on creating. Because it's a big deal. It's a big deal for your soul, no matter where you are in soul progression. And this can be for anybody listening to this anytime it's heard. Because again, we're always invited to ask ourselves, is this eternal truth, or is it a momentary truth? So with all of these words we're saying today, we're activating them with this new moon in Taurus. Is this a momentary truth, is something we're creating in this moment, or are we creating something that will be leading to an eternal truth? I know that may sound confusing, but allow yourself to go into that, because it's all connected. Whatever you do in momentary truth leads you to eternal truth eventually. So, as we are allowing ourselves to drop into our hearts and feel into whatever that is, it could be the clearing, no matter what it is, start to imagine what it looks like, in that it's already done. The creation's done. It's instant. It's instantaneous. What if whatever you see right now on this moon gets created by the next moon cycle? And we will be in a place where we observe how well we create our next reality. As the time-space continuum continually collapses on itself, there is no future, there's no past, there's only this moment. So if we're creating in this now moment, whatever you think now, boom, there it is. Jude and I used to do this with each other all the time. I would be sitting there and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to call Jude. The phone's ringing, it's her. We did it to each other all the time. It's just instantaneous, it's immediacy. So what if we are creating every single thing in our life through immediacy? I tell you what, most people around the world would want to clean up their thoughts and their emotional reactions, because if we're creating that immediately, how many times do we create a false reality or a distorted truth, a distorted creation, a miscreation? How many times does something pop in your life and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted? How did I create a miscreation? Seriously? And I've done that before too. Again, all of these things come to us to slap us in the face and say, let me really get succinctly clear in my heart and in my mind and clear out all the residue. If we're an antenna, I mean, we're consciousness, we're here, we're in a body. We're an antenna, and we're soaking in every single thing out there in the world that we see. So if you're watching all these TV shows that are trauma, drama, whatever it is, if it's lower vibration, it's coming into your field. You may say it's not. You may say, I'm just entertaining myself. But are we? And there may be no one on this call that sits there and watches drama television. My mom used to, but I had to just not even watch it. I just couldn't do it because the field's so bad. Movies. Every time you choose a movie, are you watching something that is, highly uplifting and wonderful and fun and, sings to your heart and soul? Or are you watching all the dark destruction and death and whatever else? Same thing with music. It's programming. It's put into the field. It's our free will choice at that point to watch whatever we watch. But all of those things, and we don't realize it, they're slowly hypnotizing us, and they draw our attention away from our infinite capacity and pristine awareness and creation. I never really got taken really deeply into that until I started seeing the difference when I've been in silence and solitude, and then something else will come up around me, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't listen to that. And when you go down that level of the journey, then it's like, ooh, then you're really just with yourself. Some people have to have something going on all the time. They have to have television, news. It doesn't matter what the noise is, but they cannot sit still in their house for a whole entire day in silence because it would drive them nuts. Their minds can't handle that level of nothing happening. I used to wonder how Jude could do it all the time. But again, through my life, I was in a nightclub all the time. It was part of the reason it took me 3 years of working with Jude constantly. I did a lot of work with her just to clear the bulk of that out. Well, actually, that was the core stuff. And then another 3 years really to clear out the nightclub after I got out of the nightclub. But each of us have this capacity to release on those core levels. And so it's just a reminder that if we're ever drawn into those things, don't judge it. Just ask yourself when you're watching things on television, radio, doesn't matter what it is that assisting you in creating a completely wonderful life of happiness? I know different people that live over in Europe, and my German exchange student that lived here with us in 2015, she used to look at stuff in the house, and she's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. My mom's like, oh yes, this was this, and this was this, and all the history that's carried forth. And she said, we don't live like that over there. We don't have all this stuff. It's very clean, it's sparse, it's simple, it's plain. Doesn't mean they don't have other things that they're shifting, but Europeans live much more deeply in their hearts. But I also don't think that they have, they don't have a Walmart. Well, they probably do have Walmarts, but not like our Walmarts, where you have everything's imported from China. If you look at the energy field of the stuff in Walmart, it's created by someone in China, so that's an energy event. Are people in China developing something under deep enslavement? Can you imagine working in these factories to create a bunch of plastic for a bunch of crap that we go buy and we place all this value on for what? To sit around the house and grow dust? It makes no sense. Plastic flowers, plastic vases, plastic, it's vacuous, and it takes up space in our lives, and we have no clue that it happens. It just makes no sense. And it's a distorted reality. Again, it's just another place that we're asked to look at what's important in our lives. And if it's like for everything in your house, go through it, look at it, feel it, touch it. If it's important, your heart will feel it. It should stay with you. If you're conflicted, go into the confliction. And I'm not the poster child for having done it much because, I've been having to do it now. But we really are being asked we can't take all this with us when we go back to God. It's like, it's important. And it really gives you a perspective, if you honestly go in and do it, what's the truth? And does it hold a frequency that holds your frequency down? Does it add to the density of your life? Because with the physical stuff, there's usually a story attached to it. Can you allow that story to go? By getting rid of the stuff, do you get rid of the story? It doesn't mean you get rid of the memory. But so many times our mind catches us in a memory that keeps us stuck. We may not make a decision to move forward with a new relationship that may come into our life because of we can't release an old story with someone else that left our life. And we stay trapped. And believe it or not, these types of things are actually in your astrological chart. And that's one of the things that I'm creating, that I'm going to be putting out during this moon cycle. Spirit has told me it is now time. So I'm going to start working on that as far as actuating it now. After about a year and a half of letting it come forth. And that's in the astrology of my chart. And I'll go into that in a future time. But, so anyway, as we're all here on the call, we're here in a group consciousness. We're here for ourselves individually, but we're also here to create, not just for ourselves, but the world too. And I think that's one of the things, Jude always talked about this. We forget how big we are as a presence in affecting the external world of form. We just don't think about it. One single thing that we can do individually can shift so much. What happens when we come together as groups? In the last few calls, we had like about 13 people on most of the meditations. Actually the April 8th call, we had like 25 or 26 people on the call. So, it blew up because of the eclipse usually. But all the three other calls usually are around an average of 13 people. 13 is Christ. I think last time I looked, we had about 11 callers here. 11 is a master number. It's perfect. It means that the energy of this call is an 11. It's new beginnings. It's appropriate for everything we're talking about. Everyone that's here attended. Anyone that's not here was not meant to be the part of the creation of this particular call. It's all perfect. I see numbers everywhere. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you, I hate that we're not in a more participative thing back and forth where there's a conversation, but I know you're all sitting there nodding your heads yes, because we're in synchronicity. I mean, every person I've talked to, they're saying numbers like crazy. Even my old boss is like calling me up. What's a 1111? What's a this? What's a that? It's so funny, but it's just everybody going through their own awakening. So, okay, so I think that's about like all the stuff I want to talk about. I'm not going to go through any more details with regards to what the astrologers are saying. I'm going to just send that out in an email, and you can read through it and peruse where they're at, because as you read those things, it'll activate things within you, just through different things you read. You'll be like, oh, wow, oh, yeah, it'll bring something to your awareness through that. There's no reason for me to go through it on here. I'd much rather use this time for taking us in and doing the deep energy clearing, and also, but the activation. This is more, it's both actually. The other calls I had done, I'd called them clearing calls, and they were. The eclipses, the moons in between, that 0 alpha omega point in between the eclipses, that was a doozy. That was a big deal. And what's funny, most astrological people didn't really acknowledge it. I didn't hear anybody else talk about that being when Mercury stationed retrograde, it was stopped in the sky in the middle of the eclipses. I don't remember reading that by anybody else, and yet Spirit showed it to me. That was the real reset for us. It was in between the worlds. So now we're in this space where it's not really clearing, but it's more we're birthing. This moon is about the birthing. It's about the birth. We're conceiving our reality. That's it. It's conceiving it. We're conceiving it. Imagine that you're making love to the universe and you're going to go into a new creation, whatever that looks like for you. And people may say, oh, making love to the universe, what's that? Well, it's a creation. When two people have sex, they create a creation, that it comes in a human form. What happens when we create the universe? Everything is yin-yang. Everything is a balance. There's a divine feminine, divine masculine within us that's creating. We're not separate from the universe. We're just in love with the universe. So as you're in love with the universe on this moon, and the moon was exact like 2 or 3 hours ago, we're in that dark of the moon. That's when everything gets created, in the womb. So as we are at 0 point energy for every single one of us, whoever's on this call at any time, you're going into a 0 point within yourself. It's all being wiped away. Spirit is wiping away anything that you want to release. That allows for a creation to not have any attachments or distortions attached to it, actually. It can create from a pristine awareness. As we're creating whatever we're creating, we're being asked to just release from our minds, from our hearts and souls, any energy that would be a distortion or allow for a miscreated start on whatever it is we're seeding right now as a creation. This is really powerful. Allow yourselves to go into and feel into, what does that look like? A pristine creation. Again, it could just be clearing yourself. It could be releasing yourself from a soul contract. It can be going toward a new job. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's a physical thing that you want, need in your life, then ask for that. Your heart knows what it needs right now. But as you're asking for, let's say you need a new car, you're trying to manifest a car because your other one's breaking down or something. Try not to be too particular in what you're asking for. Ask for the highest potentiality of a vehicle and transportation that God can gift you without any attachment to it. You don't know the brand, you don't know the name, you don't know the color, you don't know anything. And yet, as you float through life, just going through your week or next 2 weeks or whatever else, imagine that the next moon, you're going to literally walk right up and you're going to know in your heart, oh my gosh, that's my car. And you'll ask for, don't ask how it's going to be paid for, ask for the specific or the most appropriate creation for your soul's manifestation that keeps you in balance. Or, if it is more expensive, ask for whatever it is, a better job, whatever you need to be able to sustain this new expansion in your life. Imagine this time period is like your fairy godmother. This is the Jupiter Uranus Conjunction that happened back on the 20th of April. It's hitting this moon cycles. It's still close enough to the energy. Imagine that you're being delivered the most miraculous creation that you could have even dreamed possible because you got out of the way. Just close your eyes and sit. Just sit in that. You can see it. You can feel it. Don't be mental with it. Just go into your heart. Feel whatever that is that you're creating. Perhaps you need next month's rent. It could be so simple. So simple. And all of a sudden, you may have some circumstance that happens where that money comes to you from nowhere. And guess what? It's already been created. It's already there. It really is. It's already there. I think that's the hardest part for us to know, is that we can clear our DNA to a point where we know we're going to be met. That was one of the core things that Jude taught over all her years. How do you know that you're going to be met? And it's really true. Everything that we've ever wanted is already created for us. And part of that's in the astrology. When I look at the global level of who we are, we're all shifting and changing, just going through the wu-way. I forget how Jude said it. It's that natural flow. It's harmonious flow. I think it's even happening for people that are creating in their darkest aspects of self. I think as we shift, we're shifting the field, the morphogenetic field. As the field shifts, no matter who's in the field is being shifted. I don't care if it's a Joe Biden or a Donald Trump or a Putin or whoever, it doesn't matter. There's no separation in the field. Wow, I didn't expect to be going there. Spirit just reminds me, though, reminds all of us. There's no separation. So over the next, okay, so this eclipse series, opening up to the next eclipse series right before the elections. Imagine that Americans, but not just Americans, but people around the world, because people around the world are being affected by what happens with America, either economically, currencies. So many things happen because of America. So what if so many people around the world go into either a fear, or they just become so tired of seeing what they're seeing in the external world form? Imagine that a certain number of people goes over, like the 100th monkey. Imagine that so many people start praying for peace, that peace just came. Could the world become so dire in its appearance that enough people internally start going into God and remembering who they are as creators, and they start praying for peace. Is that possible? What if that's really how we save ourselves as humanity? We have to look at the external darkness in the world of form, of which we're not separated from, and we just go deeper and deeper and deeper. It opens our hearts more and more and more, and we just pray for peace, and peace just happens. What if we all wake ourselves up from this nightmare without no effort at all? Wow. Alrighty then. I didn't expect that to be articulated, and yet there it is. That's pretty exciting. What if it's already written in our charts? What if the next 2 years going up to 2026 is a bardo state? We're collectively in a bardo state. We're facing our shadows individually and collectively, which is not a pretty process. But what if it's what we've got to do to get to the other side to wake up? What if the new dream, Neptune and Aries and Saturn, the work we came here to do, it all zeroes out as 0 point in Aries, all new beginnings? What does that look like? What if people become so disheartened with looking at not just the politicians in the United States, but politicians all around the world? And what if they just ask God to just take care of it? Just remove these people from office, remove people from their positions that are abusing power. Are we that powerful? You don't have to wish bad on anyone, but you can certainly ask that they just, whatever circumstances, God just comes in and just removes them from where they are and lets them be taken into another place or some dynamic where they can work out their power struggles and all the lower density. Are we as a collective humanity doing that? Are we becoming so tired of the dog and pony show, the clown show in the political world, that we're just on conscious and unconscious levels just asking God to take care of that? Could we be unconsciously getting out of our own way and asking God to take care of that? As it is, it doesn't seem that any human being can solve this problem. The political world, the control and power structures. There's more and more mass meditations happening all the time. I thought I was going to be taking everyone into more specific individual manifestations, and yet here we go, and we are looking at our global shifts and manifestations. But aren't they one and the same? How can we manifest that new car or some clothes or food? I mean, it's simple things for some people. If you're wanting a big new house, it doesn't matter what the manifestation is. It may be an operation. I mean, there's also, again, we're in an infinite reality system. Every single soul is its own soul progression, asking to manifest things to assist in clearing whatever it is, either to attend something in the physical body that's a miscreation, a distorted thought form, or we're trying to create a life where things around us are beautiful. They're loving. They're peaceful. They really create a sustainable, happy environment for us so that we can create from a higher frequency from now forward. It's both. There's no separation in anything you're creating right now and in the global creation. It's all part of the same thing. Wow. The more I get taken into these things, it's like, ooh. I always knew it. I've already been taken into these things, but I haven't articulated something like that necessarily in one of these calls. Every single manifestation that you're doing is affecting global shift. And not global climate change and all these things that they're projecting onto us. I assure you the Earth knows what the Earth is doing. It's the miscreated use of technologies, the HARP system, all these other things that are creating distortions in the external world of form. All of those things are being cleared out slowly but surely, but they're still creating distortions right now. And yet Spirit says, don't worry about that. Worry about what's right in front of you and keep shifting you. As you shift you, you shift everything around you. And everything around you will shift everything around that, and so on and so forth. It's literally to be the change in the world that you want to see. And as you're creating, create imbalance. You may notice out in the world where people want a bigger and bigger and bigger house. Do you want a bigger and bigger house? With that bigger house, it's more expense. Property taxes go up. Insurance goes up. Utility bills go up. You really want that creation? And yet, people are powerful creators. They create it all the time. But if they're not in balance, they create their own tower moment. And in the tarot, you get the tower card, and your life collapses around you because it's out of balance. What is balance? So many times we look at our lives and say, well, do I have enough? And if you've got enough for yourself, do you have enough to share? So many people are so busy creating what they think is an overabundance for themselves, but then they don't need it all, and so many of them don't even share it. And so they create this huge imbalance for themselves in life, and it eventually falls. It collapses on itself. It implodes because it's not in balance. It's not to say that you can't have the big house, but there has to be a balance. All energy balances us out in some shape, form, or fashion. Sometimes that balance comes to let us experience something completely opposite from a previous lifetime. And so we've gone through huge extremes within our life expressions with each subsequent lifetime. It's all about creating balance. What happens is if this is the last lifetime where we're going to get this right, and we're at 0 point, we create everything from this 0 point moment. There's nothing else to balance out. What if we have come to a place of a 0 point balance? Sure, we're still going to have places where we've got little refinement balances, but what if just in that space of the nothingness, we're creating something, and we want to create something pristine? whatever it is. That's what we're doing. The more pristine that you can create and let God bring it to you, it's not on our timetable. God knows what we need when we need it. What if we are just allowing life to come forth? But there's also a balance in co-creating it. It's not something where you just sit back and do nothing and God brings everything to you. As the bell chimes. We have to be co-created in the process. That's part of the balance. Sometimes we have to pull back from our lives and our family structures and everything to get a sense of who we are. I've had to do that for the last 14 years. And yet I've been attending family and doing whatever needs to be done to observe the aging process of humanity. There's always been a purpose with it. But while I've been in this, it's been a huge time for reflection. It's been a time when God has taken me into so much vast awareness, and it's really what Jude has said in all these years. And she would take me into this. It's what opened me up into it all. But as I continually allow myself to be informed by Spirit, so many things that I used to think were important, they're just not anymore. And I just release them. And it's been a process. It's taken years. And we're always going through this process. But the energy we're at now, though, it's more immediate. Where if something isn't needed in our lives, it's going to just fall away pretty quickly. Part of these things we're making conscious decisions on. I would much rather make conscious decisions to declutter my life of all this material stuff rather than have an unconscious, like a house fire one day that takes it all away. Wow, okay, I guess I get to be a phoenix coming from the ashes. And people do create circumstances like that for themselves. Or a tree could fall in the middle of their house, or a hurricane or a tornado comes and takes them away. There's all sorts of things that happen all the time. It depends on the frequency where someone's at. Some people want to say, oh, I'm a victim. Oh, this happened to me. Well, you're not a victim. Anything that happened in our lives, we've already pre-agreed to it. It's in your chart. It's in the astrology. It's in your soul path. It was there for you to go through the process and to wake up from something or something, some miscreated idea or thought form, or just, it's all meant to take you into your heart. It doesn't matter. It looks different for everybody in the world of form. But there's always tower moments that literally destroy everything that we thought was important in our lives, where we come out the ashes to be our greatest self possible. Again, it doesn't have to go through physical destruction, but everything is there to wake us up. And again, Spirit will use every single man, woman, child, animal, circumstance. Doesn't matter. And I say Spirit does it. We actually agree to all this before we come in. It's all part of the soul contract. When we're up on the clouds, the specific family, the same people we meet, the same karmic circumstances that come in, twin flame activations. And to clarify, I've not done it before, but the twin flame does not always mean that's going to be your person. As a matter of fact, it almost never means it's going to be your person. It can, depending on the progression of both your souls up to this point. But twin flames usually come in to activate you, to take you deeper into your heart And it usually goes through destruction of some shape, form, or fashion. It's about taking us to our core about what is love. What is our perspective? What is our perspective? Our perspective of love. There's so many kinds of love. But this is to take us away from that false romantic sense of love. But romance is it's a fallacy. We feel the energies when we're drawn into those relationships. And we're in those relationships and they're set for a certain amount of time. Sometimes we get to go through our whole lifetime with that particular relationship. A lot of times, though, the relationships we have are limited based on Saturn returns, which are 29-year patterns. It can also be in 7-year, in other words, break up Saturn in quarter patterns. It can be 7 or 8-year patterns. It can be a Jupiter transit. Jupiter can hit something for 12 years. It can expand it and grow it, and then all of a sudden it goes away, and you're like, "Oop, there goes the relationship." Life expression. This is another one of the things. I don't think I've mentioned this one before, but a couple asteroids out there. One is Ganymede. Ganymede was Zeus's male young lover. And Zeus, I don't know if you know much about mythology, but Zeus had everybody on the planet. He was like the playboy beyond. But Ganymede was his special male lover. And almost anywhere that an individual has Ganymede placements in their chart, it's in everybody's chart, all 8 billion people on the planet. Ganymede somewhere out there in the zodiac. But if it's around your sun, your Mercury, Venus, Mars, that is where people have usually homosexual expression. Sappho is usually the one that's looked to for, lesbian expression. But when people say that they are born this way, that's literally true. And it plays out all of those themes, through mythology that gets played out. And some people wonder why people change their sexuality on a dime. They can be married with a wife and kids for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and all of a sudden they turn out with a different expression. The personality changes. The personality changes because the astrology and all the transiting planets are always shifting and changing. The planets are us, we are the planets. If the planets change and we're really deeply unconscious of who we are, you can have a complete shift in your perception of reality, how you choose to express yourself, and it's in the astrology. And people will look for mental understandings of it. They'll try to see patterning and behavior and this and that and try to project all sorts of values to it when the actual soul expression shifted and changed because it's in the chart. And it was being transited. That takes us into another level of awareness, of discussion. And it's part of the progression of the soul. Spirit's taken me into this in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So the energies of these eclipses hit certain parts of us. We may have had feelings come within us that awoke. And we're like, where does that come from? And then you may have felt like you wanted to act on something. Actually, I think people are going to be having these feelings through the next year, up to a year maybe, even more. But especially right now, they're potent with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So if you've had a feeling about something or something has crossed your mind, it's never crossed your mind before, and all of a sudden it's there, and it may feel so strong, and you think, oh my God, I've got to act on this. And yet it could be a karmic lesson. It could be a final. Imagine that your soul is in a place where it's about to graduate to a PhD level of cosmic awareness. And you get something thrown at you from left field, and you're like, I didn't ask for that. And it gets plopped in your lap like a hot potato. What if that is your soul's, your higher self, God, whatever, how, it's all the same thing. You brought it in to test how you are in the progression of your soul. You've gone through all this work over these last several years, and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got to make a decision. There's no time to think about the decision. You're in it. It's hot. You can't be mental about it. You have to stay in your heart and ask yourself what's true. It can test us, especially the people with addictive personalities. Something will come in. It will test your ability to stay away from anything that draws us into addiction. Any kind of addiction. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, food, sex, shopping, whatever it is that you have done in the past as a behavior, as a coping mechanism for some place you didn't feel met. That's what I think has been happening for a lot of people within this last 2 months. If that's true for you, I'd be interested to hear what your experiences have been. Because, I mean, and again, there's 8 billion people going through this type of thing. But we really do bring things into our level of mastery where we have to master it. Anything we've ever struggled with is like thrown right in our face. How are you going to make a better decision? Well, there's not better than or less than. There certainly are decisions that you can make where your life can be less dense and can flow much easier, or you can give in to a temptation or give in to some weakness, and then it takes you back into that karmic pattern where you're on the wheel yet again. And you're like, oh God, not again. Can you catch yourself in this? You're in your dissertation. Imagine you could be in a mastery class. I mean, let's say you've gone back for your master's in some spiritual thing in your life. But this is the final. You're in it. What if you've been tested and now you've come out the other end? Did you pass or fail? There is no pass or fail. There was only a choice. Did you choose a higher way or a lower way? And I don't mean higher or lower, but it's a vibrational frequency. If you chose the higher path through higher consciousness, what happens if you get graduated to the greatest potentials of anything you could have ever created in your life? That's really what this eclipse series has been. People that are on the front cutting edge of this have passed those types of tests. It's in the Aries Libra axis, which is the I am presence, who are you as presence on the planet, versus Libra, the other. So it's all your relationships, every one of them. But it's also your relationship to self. It's your relationship to God, how you perceive God. Again, there's not a pass or fail. But I know of different circumstances where people have had that test presented to them and they chose a karmic. They chose a lower form of expression, and now they're going to be in some other loop playing out or dealing with some sort of consequences because of their choices. Have you mastered yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually? Do you ever feel like the devil's up on your shoulders sitting here? Oh, look over here. Do this. Oh, wouldn't that be so fun? Just go do that. Just go do it. You can do it. You have free will choice. How many of you feel like you've been tested during the period right before listening to this call? Some people may not hear this call for 2 years from now. Whenever you hear this call, have you just gone through a moment of testing in your soul? Did you pass the test or fail it? Again, there's no pass-fail. but where's the creation that you find yourself in? What timeline have you brought yourself into? Are you stepping into a higher timeline or a lower timeline? I don't know what that looks like. It doesn't matter. I believe this is eternal truth. What if this has always been true, though? It's just that because the time-space continuum is collapsing on itself, everything is now a now moment. It doesn't matter really when this gets recorded. Although it's on May the 7th of 2024, as a time stamp here at 9:20 p.m. Central Time. But if the information here is eternal truth, it will be good for eternity. It doesn't matter when you hear the message. You were meant to hear the message at this particular point. Is this message higher or lower consciousness from where you are in your own perception of reality? Doesn't matter. Some people may hear this message and say, yeah, I've already been there and done that. Some people may hear this message and it's a huge awakening for them. It doesn't matter. Everything is perfect for everyone exactly when they hear it and when they feel into it. Every message that everyone codes through higher spiritual presence with any of the masters, with Mother, Father God, with Kuan Yin, with Archangel Michael, Saint Germain, Metatron, doesn't matter. Whenever the message is heard, it will activate whoever needs to be activated in that moment. It's all perfect. It's still amazing that there are exactly 11 attendees. At one point, we were up to 13, but it came back to an 11 master number. Everything is always perfect. So let's go in and really activate the DNA for the last few minutes. Just really brighten and activate all of the adamantine particles. All of the buzzing, all of the electrical, all the electrons. Feel that amazing, pristine awareness. This is just God. It's the all that is. You feel the electrical buzzing in your body. It's the toroidal field. It's going in your crown chakra, and it's going down, it's coming out your feet, and it just loops. It goes round and round, just like Earth. Whether we were conscious about it or not, Spirit was already doing this with us and taking us into this supreme balance during this whole call. I felt it and tracked it. I just didn't bring it up. Feel all that raw power coming in through the crown, and it is lighting up every nanoparticle of your body. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to think about. Feel this frequency. Even if you have something in your life that you feel is challenging you, what if you've done so much spiritual work that God just protects you from that? You just say, that's not my business. Just clear and delete, clear and delete, clear and delete. Clear and delete. You came here to create something so amazing, and it's being activated right now with this Taurus new moon. And it will start to come into form on the next Sagittarius moon on May 23rd. That's for the people listening to the call right now. For anyone else listening to this call, whenever you hear it, what if that's when your soul just called to be woken up to listen to the call, and that's where you are in the progression of your soul, and 2 weeks from now, you have an amazing new creation. It may not even be 2 weeks by the time you listen to this. With the progression of awakening on the planet, this audio transmission may be obsolete within a year or two. It may be no longer needed. We may have jumped so much in the collective consciousness that no one needs this type of thing to listen to assist them in clearing anything. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? And that would be Pluto and Aquarius, which we won't go into today, but so we're clearing all this. Going through the death of anything that no longer serves us, but really, really sitting in the birth, whatever's birthing. Feel that. Take this all the way down into the sacral chakra. That's where everything births. Feel that glow. Feel that power center being activated. This is where we birth everything within our own being. It's why you have to really pay attention to how you share your energy, especially sexual energy. Sexual energy is raw, primal energy. If you feel like you've been, or anybody you know has been in a miscreation of that, perhaps let them listen to this call. Perhaps it will take them in and assist them in shifting and purifying any miscreated energies. This is your raw power. We're now connecting this in much deeper through the sun, the great central sun, the great central sun, so on and so forth. This is cosmic awareness. This is encoded in this call through light language. If someone is on this call and doesn't feel like they're tapped into it yet, listen to the call several times. If you're at a certain frequency and you can't hear this, then you're just at a different frequency. Don't judge it. But again, go find the teacher, whoever you need to find to assist you and take you into it. I think, though, that whoever finds this call is meant to hear it. And this energy will assist in clearing you to the point of your soul progression at that particular point of time. The main thing to know is that you are there. The clearing is already done, and to know that it is happening for you. Some of you may even could feel like you could levitate if you've really done deep, deep levels of clearing and let go of deep density. This is clearing your heart. This is clearing your mind. Any places where your mind was no longer subservient to the heart, those are clearing away. Your sacral chakra is now subservient completely to your heart. Any and all last urges, any residue that was left down there, if you had any miscreated thought forms throughout this lifetime and every other lifetime, what if we were just to ask that all that be cleared out and burned off and transmuted with Saint Germain and the violet flame and the diamond Christ light and the 12th golden ray? Do you feel like you're emerging from a phoenix? Do you feel yourself in the crucible, participating in the burn-off? Isn't that amazing? What you heal for yourself, you also heal for your family. You see, there's no separation. We're not only here by ourselves, but we're also in union and communion with the entire company of heaven here right now. This is Mother, Father, God. This is every ascended master through infinite presence that's ever been existence. This is the entire archangelic kingdom. This is all the elemental kingdoms. This is the seven mighty Elohim, builders of form on planet Earth. This may feel intense for some of you, and yet it's being tempered down so that none of you, no matter who listens to this call, is overwhelmed by any energy. The energy will only come in to the point that your soul contract will allow for the moment you listen to the call in each subsequent time. So you could listen to this call a dozen times. Each time you listen to it, what if you clear more and more and more? What if the cosmic fire that you're feeling right now, at this point in every call, exponentially clears different levels and layers for you? This is eternal presence. Even I am blown away at what's happening within me. The me that's left is a me. I'm starting to sound like Jude sometimes. What if all of this is being amplified so perfectly because of your presence on the call? The initial call we are making has 11 attendees. No one is left. No one else has come on. Everything is always perfect. And yet, if each one of you, if anyone on this call, when we've recorded this, were not here, would it not have been the same type of energy? Everything is always as it's supposed to be. The entire company of heaven wants to appreciate and say just deep gratitude for every person that's been on this call, because it has allowed for a frequential setup that will go out through time for whoever listens to this call. This is to say that you are not insignificant. No matter who you are and what you do in your life, you are significant for this particular moment of time to participate with this. You just got goosebumps, didn't you? Every subsequent person that listens to this call at any time throughout the space-time continuum will continue to amplify the energy of this call every time it gets shared. What would happen if this call were to go viral? What if all of a sudden someone got a hold of it and started sharing it? It's really how things work. It's how things will work in your own life. Just sit in this vast awareness. This is oceanic presence. This is the presence that's seeding the new earth on this Taurus new moon. We are all divinely protected. Know that you're magnetizing in your highest creations. They're seeded. You may even release the need to know what your creations are. What if everyone that listens to the call lets go of everything that they think they wanted to let themselves be gifted so miraculously by Spirit? Because Spirit has upgrades for us that we never dreamed possible. More goosebumps, huh? What if this energy can help you and assist you in clearing out your DNA? What if there's a distortion in your DNA that's created a disease pattern, a cancer, or some other malfunction in the body? What if the frequency of this call is activating something in your DNA to heal yourself, or to assist someone else in healing in the world? Everything you're feeling right now is not a me doing it to you. I'm not clearing you. You are clearing you. This is one of the clarifications that sometimes Jude would say she would be working on us before. She certainly was holding space for us, but she wasn't really working on us. She was holding space for the divine to come in, for our own souls to open up to our divinity and let Spirit clear us. We're actually doing the work. We're meeting ourselves. No matter who you are, I'm not doing this to you. There is no me. This is your soul contract. This is you as a soul expression that has come here to meet the all that is. Your experience will be unique to you. The level of vibrational frequency and shift that you allow will only be limited by your own capacity to meet yourself. I'm not doing this. You're doing this. This is you taking your power back. Isn't that a neat trick? This is called my will versus divine will. You can facilitate this for any person on the planet. When you take your power and you sit and you walk with the divine, whatever that looks like and feels like for you, You can assist another soul by holding space for them. That's all this is. You had to choose to be on the call. Your soul chose to be open enough. It chose to be open enough to receive. There is no doing in this call. There's nothing to do. Imagine for those with eye problems. The eyes have really been hit hard lately. I know mine certainly have. Let's go in and let Spirit, let's let all this adamantine particles, let all this cosmic plasmic energy work on our eyes so we can see. Feel this energy coming in. It's working on your brain. It's working in your eyes. It's working on the optic nerve. It's working on the retina. Retina is both eyes. Direct the energy. This isn't me directing it. It's you directing it. Perhaps you're not hearing as well. Direct the energy to your ears. Ask for greater clarity and vibrational awareness within your hearing. But especially the eyes. Imagine that you could burn away all of the miscreations that you've seen on television or movies or any images with people, places, or things. Imagine you could take your eyes back to a pristine awareness where all of those distortions never entered your eyes. It never hit your field, where it never entered your brain. What if you could see with such pristine awareness? I hope y'all aren't hearing my stomach. I chose to fast today, so I think it's what's allowing this energy to become so intense today. I had no idea where we'd be going today. I just always allow Spirit to lead. This is how we're learning to relive our lives, just in the moment. Feel all that's being burned off with the cosmic flames, with Saint Germain. Metatron is coming in here and resetting us reorganizing all of the timelines so that we're on the highest potential timelines for our soul growth and development. Yeshua and Mary are here, bringing in the Christ, that deep, Christic, heartfelt knowing that will lead us and guide us in every aspect of our lives. Kuan Yin is here, taking us deeper into the cosmic heart. I'm so surprised at the level of density that has cleared out within almost this 2 hours. When we do finish this call tonight, please give yourselves permission to really sit in this. Don't go do anything if you can get away with not doing. Perhaps you've laid out on the bed and you can just fall asleep with this and let this energy really integrate. If you need to go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, but if you can come back and sit in this, let this continually shift you. I'm blown away by what has come in here, the vastness of this energy and the level of the electronic shift that's happened. Again, everyone is going to perceive this differently. Don't judge it and don't compare your experience to anyone else for best results. Just be in the moment with yourself. This is you and God. And again, you can go through this. You can listen to this call again. I'll send out links to it so you can re-listen to it. You can listen to it as many times as you want. If you feel like you've got a cleaning now, imagine what happens if you listen to it again or again. I don't know. You listen and tell me. I have a feeling every time we go through a clearing, it clears another level and layer of density. I really feel like this has been the most powerful call we've done to date. Part of it is because it's a reflection of the energies that are happening on the planet. Part of it's because our souls are really ready at a core level to release all that stuff we don't need anymore. Everything that we've shifted and released with this call, no matter who you are when you listen to it, it's opened you up. And you're seeding, you're planting seeds in this Taurus moon. The energy is still a Taurus moon on this call. You're setting yourself up to create something through pristine awareness in the highest capacity of your soul progression. And it will manifest itself in 2 weeks in some sort of form. It doesn't matter what time it is because time doesn't exist. Actually, I shouldn't even place a limitation of 2 weeks on it. If this is listened to a year from now, you can manifest your creation the next day, I don't know, in the next hour. Imagine that you sat in this all the time. Imagine that we get to a place where our bodies and our vessels can hold this quantum energy every nanosecond of the day. That we can hold this electronic vibrational frequency. This is why Jude always felt like she was burning up. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what she sat in. If you ever feel like it's too much, just ask that it be throttled back. You're in control. This is the call where you take your power back. And with that, let it be. I've just now seen 5555 and a 1 before it. The 1 stands for each of us listening to this call at any time. 4 5s stand for an amazing manifestation. I forget what they are in the angel numbers, but everything's in the numbers. Again, take your time and sit in this energy and let it continue to heal you and open you up to the greatest capacities of your timeline, wherever you are. And here we are, just under 2 hours. Still, 11 of you have stayed in attendance, so it's been absolutely perfect. Deepest gratitude, eternal love, and many blessings to every single one of you for having stayed through, because all of you were necessary for what got created on this call. Eternal love and infinite blessings to every person that listens to the call, and all the way that you shift from when you hear the call as you put it out into the world of form. Fly well, everyone. And deep gratitude.